Ed turned up the heat. Stale air blew in Jim's face. The windshield was fogged. Jim grabbed his sleeve with his fingers and pressed his forearm on the glass, rubbing it clear. Might as well be driving with your eyes closed. They cruised past the town limit sign. Temp's really dropping, Ed said. It's country dark, too. Oh, yeah. You doing all right? I can take the wheel if you... Ed waved his hand. Jim moved around, trying to get some circulation back in his ass cheeks. He reached to unbuckle his seatbelt. Ed looked at him. You need to stop, Jim? Stop. What I'm asking... No, I mean stop the car. What? Are we dead? Ed asked. You smell dead. Jim looked out his side where the window used to be. Most of it was in his lap, in tiny pieces, shining like dangerous candy. His ears were ringing and his neck hurt. Ed's voice sounded far away. Something about his leg feels broken and it's getting ready to hurt real bad. Jim opened the door, shook glass out of his lap, and stepped into a ditch. His vision tunneled and his head sank, like somebody had turned the gravity dial up a few notches. He leaned against the car and worked his way around to Ed, who had pushed himself out the driver's side door and was sitting with his back against the door. Ed lit a fat blunt and passed it. Pain management. What was that, a deer? Jim asked. Looked like a bear. No way. You see it anywhere? No. You're not supposed to swerve. Just hit them straight on. Beats bouncing off trees like we did. Tad late with the driver's ed tip there, Jimbo. Yeah, well, give me your phone. I'll call 911. Ed tapped his pockets, found the phone. We're not hurt bad enough. And my next DWI is a felony. I'm calling Barry. He drives a wrecker. Jim decided not to argue. It was cold and the weed was kicking in. Ed was mumbling into the phone. Jim lay down on the ground, reminded himself that he would need his bag out of the trunk. More stars than sky out here, layer on layer. Deep in that infinite overlay of parallel universes, a smarter Jim had been spending a regretless chunk of the last 10 years in a warm bed with Allie. Of course, in another, minutely tilted universe, the unluckiest of Jims had gotten a seatbelt off and had been launched through the windshield, courtesy of a parallel drunken Ed. Jim sat up. He borrowed the keys and lifted his bag out of the trunk. How long is this guy going to be? Asked Jim. Ed held up his hand. All right, that's enough. Enough. Here's a question. You know what we used to call you? Jim didn't answer, hearing the change in Ed's tone. The man with the reverse Midas touch. Everything you touch turned to shit. Now, not even one day passes, and here we are on the side of the road, and all you're worried about is your stuff and how long it's going to be before you get back to screwing my sister's life up again. She's doing good, by the way. Much better without you. She's taking her up and down pills every day, working, and she's happy. How is this my fault? You wrecked Allie's car. How happy is she going to be about that? And I didn't ask you to pick me up in the first place. I picked you up because my sister, who I care about, even though she has the piss-poor sense to keep dealing with you, asked me to. That's what people do. Well, not people like you, but people like me. Because you needed my help. So answer me this, Mr. Ass Holier Than Thou. What are you doing out here next to me, freezing your nuts off? Oh, how long you been saving that one, fat Albert Einstein? Ed staggered to his feet and glared, looking all weed paranoid. I was planning to stop you tomorrow, but now's good. Jim took a step back. Then they were lit up. They turned and shielded their eyes as a tow truck rumbled up. Behind it was a patrol car. The town cop walked up first. Barry got out of the tow truck and came over. He nodded toward the cop. He saw me going out on the call. Another door slammed. Jim watched Allie slide out of the tow truck. And so did she. She was still at work, said Barry, shrugging. Small town, Ed said. Curious inhabitants, Jim said. The cop ran a flashlight beam up and down Jim and Ed and then pointed it inside the car. Ed leaned over and looked, like he was curious too. Open containers and you both reek. Who is operating this vehicle? Operating this vehicle, Jim echoed. The cop looked about 12. Allie was hugging a big down jacket around herself. Her thin legs stuck out, pantyhose sagging around her knees. She swayed from exhaustion, her eyes closed, her face kabuki white in the high beams. A tired face, but even so. Jim started toward her, but she put her hand up and pointed her index finger at his face, eyes still shut tight. I was driving, Ed said. Oh no, Eddie, he heard her whisper. She walked over to him and put her fist on his chest, punched him twice in slow motion. No, no, no. Ed cupped her fist in his hands. Jim watched the two of them, and the road, bathed in bright, cold light. It felt timeless, as if the world had spun away and left this after-image. He remembered Ed's round face bulging through the screen door when he would take Allie out. He would stand there inconsolable until she returned. Then Allie getting sick, Jim bailing when the choices seemed to be Allie screaming, hot as blue flame, or Allie zonked on meds, and finally Allie, who didn't understand, saying she understood, pleading over and over, "I'm still me, Jim," as he shook his head and drove off. Then the message from Ed 2 weeks later, "She stood in the road for 4 hours. You are a breathtaking asshole. Stay gone." All that happened since he left now felt illusory. This was the story that would hound him until he finished it. "Officer, don't listen to his drunk ass. I woke up driving and swerved off the road." Jim jangled the car keys. "Just glad nobody got hurt. You need to submit to a breath test and..." No, none of that's gonna happen. We're all cold and tired. Just put me in the back seat and let's go." Allie pressed her face against the window, mouthed a thank you, blew it, and drew a heart where her breath left a mark. Ed stood back a few feet, smirked, and flipped him off. Jim leaned forward, felt the cuffs pull all the way up to his shoulders. He looked in the rearview mirror, made eye contact. "Hey, I think I know you. How about some heat back here before I file a human rights complaint on your ass? Or even worse, I tell your mother." It would take a long time to make things right here, back home. Lying and smart-mouthing a cop in the back of a patrol car, nursing a rapidly fading buzz, feeling the cuffs digging in. It seemed like an odd way to start on the righteous path. As they drove off, he shifted his weight, turned toward the window, and watched the dark scenery of town pass through her fading heart.